evening to you all. I'm Ritu Sibal, and I would like to thank each one of you for joining in today. It's my pleasure to introduce you to our today's guest speaker, Raghav Chandra, co-founder of Urban Company, formerly known as Urban Clap. Raghav, whom I've seen growing up, is today responsible for the product and technology vision at Urban Company, which was started in 2014 by him and his two friends, Abhiraj Behel and Varun Khetan. Urban Company is a fulfillment-led marketplace for home services, consumers, order services like beauty and spa, home appliances, repairs, plumbers, cleaners, home paintings, etc. through Urban Company. Raghav has studied from Suraj India Public School, Kanpur, then moved to Woodstock, and then to University of California, Berkeley to do his computer engineering. At the age of 23, Raghav decided to move back to India and start his entrepreneurial journey. His first startup was Buggy, a ride-sharing platform. Post that, Abhiraj and Varun started Urban Company. Abhiraj and Varun started Urban Company, which we all know and have used it one time or other. Raghav has been recognized by multi-prominent publications such as Fortune 40, Under 40, GQ's Most Influential Young Indians, Forbes 30, Under 30, Under 30 Asia. His company was recently awarded the Economic Times COVID-led Business Transformation Award. So before we begin, I would like to call upon our chairperson, Kanika Vaid, to give welcome address. Over to you, Kanika.
Thank you, Ritu. Good evening, everyone, and a very, very warm welcome to our yet another virtual event. I would firstly like to welcome our guest speaker for the day, Raghav Chandra, the co-founder of Urban Company, who generously agreed to be here to tell us his journey. Welcome, Raghav.
Thank you for having me in for such a warm welcome. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, but this was not the way I had planned the event. Was really looking forward to hosting Raghav, you here in Kanpur, wherein we all could have a chance to ask our queries, listen to you over a cup of coffee and discuss. But God has his own ways. Nevertheless, we could make it virtually. I'll just take a moment. We are aware that India has historically and culturally been an entrepreneur-driven nation. The last decade and a half has witnessed a significant change in the landscape from the founding of new startups to global investor interest to the advances made in infrastructure and policies. In 2021 alone, Indian startups have so far raised upward of $20 billion in funding. The proliferation of this startup company has brought with it new business opportunities, motivation, tech-centric approaches, and job creation across sectors. I'm happy to share that this year, under the guidance of our National President Ujjwala Singhania, we started a national startup cell, which is headed by Dr. Aarti Gupta, the past chair of Flow Kanpur. This is an initiative to create an ecosystem for women founders and funders. Flow Startup invites flowpreneurs to help think, build, scale, pitch, and fund their ventures. This cell has over 500 women-led startups that are excelling and making a difference through their work in the field of food and agriculture, to beauty and fashion, to finance and sustainability, and more. Flow Startup also recognizes the need for women investors and is working on a cohort of women investors who are called Flow Angels. And I'm sure many of them have joined in today to hear Raghav to know more about his journey and how he, along with his co-founders, created this unicorn. I would like to welcome the members of our national startup team, past presidents, GB members, and members from Pan India who have joined in today. To begin, I would like to call upon Chandrika Jhunjhunwala to take over the session. Chandrika is one of the active team members from Flow Kanpur Startup Cell. Over to you, Chandrika.
Thank you, Kanika. Hi, Raghav. A very warm welcome to Flow Kanpur again. It's great to have you here amongst us, share your journey of seeing your startup become a unicorn. You are in the company of many inspiring women today, some of whom have tried their hands at setting their own startups. And I'm sure your story here will bring a lot of insight into the transformational journey of a successful entrepreneur. So let's get started. So take us down the memory lane a little bit, Raghav, about how Urban Clap started, what was the idea behind founding an on-demand home service company, and what problems did you face during its inception?
Yep. Thank you for setting up that question, Chandrika. And it's a great pleasure to be here. I've been a part of the General Ficky group, but it's good to see the flow group. And to be honest, I'm nervous. I'm hoping that whatever I say is of use and helpful to the larger audience. But it's a pleasure to be here. So I think starting with the journey, as you mentioned, I came back to India to start up or just do something useful in life when I was fairly young, when I was 23. 23 is when people graduate from college and spend, a year or 2 years working. So I would say still very naive. That's when I wanted to kind of figure problems out. My first startup experience was called Buggy. It was in the sector of an Uber for X model, right? How like ride sharing, having a platform where auto rickshaws could come. So that lasted for about 6 months. It was my crash course into MBA. It was my mini consulting gig, so to say. Taught me a lot. It's that around that time when I kind of met another two co-founders, and we started to brainstorm. And I think what appealed to us was we wanted to do something which we felt could be still a large problem after 40 years, right? It still would not be enough to have spent those 40 years solving. So it was kind of a big enough dream. We wanted to solve problems which were har ghar ki problem, right? Had a daily life problem statement. Every household could associate with it. People were ready to pay us to solve a problem versus it being one of those freebies. It just makes it more valuable. And we're fairly clear we want to solve a problem which could be solved through tech, right? So these are broadly the parameters which we started off with. And there were a bunch of spaces which we found interesting, but the most interesting space also just happened to be what I call as the roti kapda makan of today's generation, which is, either you're solving healthcare, education, or employment. These three are like the most satisfying problems to solve. And it just so happened that services kind of lay in this bucket where you were creating jobs on one end, but on the other end, you were solving, daily common problems. I think that was the starting. Obviously, a lot of sizing and stuff said this is a good ripe space to disrupt. But I think the emotion to solve this, which is a large part of entrepreneurship journey, the passion came from actually us we were new to Delhi. Abraj had gotten married, and we just realized this is what we're doing the whole day, like trying to manage our house help, telling when you tell your guard to get a plumber, you have to kind of be at home for the next 4 days because you don't know when they'll show up. You have no clue how to figure out the pricing. So your first way to figure out the right pricing is 200, nahi uska 50%, 100 rupees. Hopefully the negotiation will settle at the right pricing, right? That's how bad service sector was, right? And that just got us all pumped. Yaar, yehi solve karna hai. This just seems like a problem which we faced on a daily level. So yeah, that was it. There was no looking back then.
That's great. That's great. So Raghav, you know how a lot of successful entrepreneurs in our generation take the unconventional path of dropping out of academia to launch their own startups. But you took the unconventional path of launching a startup while sticking to a very solid academic path. How do you think your school and undergrad education contributed towards this? And did you always know while in school or while in college that you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, no, good question. I think the meaning of entrepreneurship has changed for me over the years. Was it there in early days? Maybe not. It meant very different things as a teenager. I think it's gone from being your own boss, which was the earlier definition. There was a lot of pride in kind of owning your own business and being your own boss. To now, it doesn't matter, right? It's more about solving problems than being your own boss. Because ultimately there are stakeholders in any chain of hierarchy you're operating in. So you're never going to, like, the feeling of a boss is a weird, like, it's an incorrect feeling. So So that's the definition which has changed. I think the role of schooling and stuff, big fan of people completing their education. I really don't understand why people drop off. I think the success stories we have are like a very, very tiny percentage of people who make it big. Those should not be the aspirations. I think a lot of my schooling and stuff, when I look back, has helped in the most unobvious things. There's no subject which I remember. There is no homework which I remember, no book which I remember. I think schooling for me has largely been a journey of working in social groups, working in teams. And I think the more philosophical parts of how our mind works. Like, for example, I've been a science student forever, right? And now I look back, I can see why physics and computer for me was so exciting, because I find myself to be a very process heavy, system heavy person now. And I can kind of figure out, like, the inception was kind of from there on. So I think that was for me schooling. College for me is very important. If people had to drop something, drop high school, do college. The reason is school is very defined. Problem statements are defined. School does not teach you how to ask questions. School teaches you how to answer. I think colleges does a little better job at starting to ask questions. But that's still not enough. I think if people had to drop everything but do one thing before they enter the real job cycle, is internships. That's when you really start to ask questions versus just answering problems. I think that's the biggest teacher, which helps.
Right. Also, I think softer skills, like you said, accountability or troubleshooting, I guess that's what that's what you learned. So Raghav, fundraising is also a very difficult task for all startups. And a lot of flow startups are going through the same process. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey from when you started, and how do you feel about where you are now?
Specifically from a fundraising angle, or generally?
We can start from that. And
fundraising is definitely tough. I think so. We raised our first set of funds in the first year, and it just so happened by accident, because we were going around. There were a bunch of mentors or senior folks in the world we were connected to, so we just went to seek advice, and they got pretty excited about what we were doing, what we want to do. I remember the first time we went to someone, these are the 2-3 ideas we're trying to think of. Their single advice was, stop thinking. If you're able to launch something, regardless of if it's good or bad, that's when you're truly on the journey. And we said, okay, fine. Right. So we went to the drawing board. We launched our first website in 20 days. From then we came back. They were like super impressed. So that's when we got our first funding offer. And that was the humble beginning for us. I think the secret sauce of fundraising is not so much to do with fundraising. It's actually to do with just having a very sound business model and showing, like, through your execution, showing that you're doing a good job. I think if those two are matching, it's fairly easy to get investors. So yeah, the journey for us has been, I think it's still day one, so it's very hard for me to answer the question. The passion and the magnitude of problems which we face are still pretty vast, and I think we've only solved like a day in the journey of our startup.
And you still think you're on day one? Is that what you said?
Yes, I think
each day is new.
Each day is new. I think the problems which are left to be solved keep getting redefined. So you just have always so much more to do. And that's a very good motto to live by, because it does two things for you. It keeps you humble. It keeps you on the treadmill of constantly finding new problems. You're constantly trying to innovate, I think, which is a very essential part of any company for that matter. So yeah, I think it feels the same way. As I think the only difference is, what is the difference? We were earlier in a cubicle sized office. Now we have a much bigger office across different countries, but fundamentally it's the same.
Right. That's great to hear. So Raghav, in 2020, you guys took a different turn and decided to change the name from Urban Clap to Urban Company. So what was the rationale behind it? And people say, what's in a name? Do you feel that way? Or
Yeah, I'm very Shakespearean that way. So I think we would probably be the laziest company to do a name change in the history of the world. We were Urban Clap with a black logo with the words UC written.
mm-hmm.
We are still a black logo with the words UC written on it, with half our name still there, which is Urban. And we said, chalo, laziest thing to do is let's replace the clap with company. So there goes that. I think the reason was we always questioned, should we do it? When should we do it? Etc. Etc. And we decided that was around the time when we were going international. Our first international city was kind of in the, I think we were launching Australia then. And we said, well, if there was ever a time, now is a good time, and let's just fix the name which you want forever. And a few other benefits while choosing the name were like, you can have a multi-brand strategy. So tomorrow you could have like an urban salon and urban spa. But that was basically all our justification and reason for repositioning ourselves. Does it really matter? End of the day, it doesn't. Fundamentally, our service quality and all the goodness we do in crafting that experience, that's the only single-handed reason for us to do well. Everything else is a distraction.
Right. So it all still falls under the same umbrella, but the name has become a bit more accommodative, I believe, of different services.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a more accommodative name. And so, Raghav, how big is the home service industry in India? Like, what are your thoughts on the competitive landscape you're in with the likes of HouseJoy and Quicker? Let's if we draw out a competitive landscape and you put service quality on the y-axis and price on the x-axis, or the other way around, how would you where do you stand?
Got it. How big is the industry? I won't throw you a number because numbers don't make us realize emotionally the quantum. Every single household in India which has an income of more than 10 lakh rupees a year is indulging itself in services. And services could be in different sectors, right? Like you have services related to getting your, so I break it into, you have to take care of people in the house. So grooming, fitness, spa, barbers, salon, all of this fits into personal services. After people, you have appliances to take care of in the house. So installation, repair of your fridge, microwave, AC, servicing, all this comes in the bucket of appliances. And then you have the house itself, which is all your cleaning, which happens, your painting, your package movers, furniture building, and so on and so forth, right? So this is the whole gambit of services. Every single house above that quantum indulges in it, which is a massive, massive quantum, right? It's basically, if you have a middle class, you'll have a ton of services. So services space from the lens of an entrepreneur is infinite. So that's for me the sizing. Interestingly, it's not an India problem. All humans across all countries avail tons of services. I think what changes is the categories. What changes is which category is big and which category is small. So broadly, that's the services landscape. Competition. You said XY is price versus quality?
Yeah, price versus quality.
So who is our competition? I think market is just so fragmented, and we are also just pretty small in the bigger gambit of the world of services. Our competition, honestly, is like the whole market is offline. The beauty market is all offline market. So there is no other structured competition per se. Even, something like a cleaning market is all offline market. We all will have maids at home, right? Fundamentally, that takes in a lot of the market. Same with appliances and whatnot. Hence, what it takes to build a good company here is not necessarily a pricing play. It has a lot to do with quality. So customers are going to be sticky. So you can't fundamentally change the pricing too much. You have to be competitive in pricing. But what becomes the winning strategy is quality, but I think it's a little more profound than just saying quality. Like I'll give you an example. The retail industry has moved quite a lot. For example, this phone for me, I can describe it in like 100 different ways in terms of the screen, in terms of the battery, in terms of the model, the make, and so on and so forth, right? What about plumbing? I don't think any of us, beyond saying plumbing, have much to describe, right? What's good plumbing versus bad plumbing? How do we actually fix a faucet? Fundamentally, in our opinion, services world is just super broken. There is no structure to it, right? And because there is no structure to it, incentive chains are broken. There's no way to figure out the right pricing. There is no way to train professionals because they don't know. There is no way that feedback loop kicks in, and so on and so forth. So when I say quality, it's not just improving quality, it's also defining what the service sector is. And I think that's what makes it a more infrastructural problem to solve. So as urban company, or as people in the services space, our biggest challenge and the reason why we've been able to do whatever we've been able to do is building the whole services ecosystem, whichever categories we operate in, fairly bottom up.
Okay. And you're just looking to, I think, establish parameters as of now, because like you said, I can't think of any parameter for plumbing. So
absolutely. So we get into a category, and it starts with defining what the category is. It starts with figuring out the pricing. It starts with figuring out the SKUs or the catalog of the category, right? Yeah. And there's a lot of training and stuff. I think we'll come to that later, but yeah. It is fairly bottoms up. Everything gets rethought through. We're changing the models of how operations are happening. Like, I mean, think about it, right? If I had to get a haircut, I'd have to go to the salon shop. Mm-hmm. That's the defined paradigm. That's how the market operates. In urban company, we flip the model. We say, well, you don't have to do that. What if the barber comes to your house? And just to kind of give you a glimpse of how impactful or how different that is, a typical barber would earn somewhere in the 15,000, 20,000 rupees in India. An urban company fund that is at least 2 to 3x the same barber, if he's able to put in that effort, right? In fact, my last conversation I was having, it was last month, with a beauty professional. You'd be pretty surprised with what she shared. What was her monthly income? It was in the quantum of, if I remember, it was like 165,000. So that's the power of, like, that's the ability to disrupt the market.
Yeah, and just bringing in-house all the out-of-home services, you've brought them home.
Yeah.
So, like, just segueing off of this point, a lot of startups face difficulties during COVID with customer retention, employee retention, but your company actually helped revive lives and livelihoods, like you just mentioned. How did you balance this through COVID, and what's your outlook post-COVID recovery?
The first wave was the scariest because it had the most unknown parameters. And I think the biggest, we were perhaps the first companies to go work remotely. So we, within 2 days, just changed our whole ops from office to remote. One of our first priorities was business to khair down jayega hi, but how do we take care of our partners? I think a lot of COVID we look at as a lives question, which is, if someone is infected with COVID, how do they deal with it, and so on and so forth. But for us, it was a lot of livelihood also at play, because these partners, they might not be daily wage, they earn, but they still need, predictability and earnings at a weekly or a monthly level. And with their business being shut indefinitely, that was a huge problem. So we did a bunch of things. We were able to raise funds. We gave them interest-free loans. Every single partner we talked to give them the confidence that we are there to back you up. And I think a lot of interesting things happened then. We worked a lot with the government to figure out. So a lot of innovation happened in containment zone that we won't operate, but other places we'll quickly open up so that whatever partners can earn kind of happens through, right? So some categories kind of were operating, some were shut. So it required a lot of working hand in hand with policymakers as well. I think that put a good balance to the two sides. I think now that we've seen 3 waves, I think hopefully this becomes less of a pandemic and starts to become something we just now learn to live with. But yes, I think we've seen good tailwinds generally through. So COVID has done one interesting thing for us. It's done actually 2 things. One is, as a company, it's forced us to think of things which we would have never thought about. Because we could not have operated in lockdown in offices. It fundamentally transformed our operations. We were able to do training on Zoom calls. Kabhi karte hi nahi, because there would have been no need for it, right? So it just trained us on new muscles. Second thing it did was customers just started to care about different things. Suddenly you had a wave of customers where people just cared about hygiene a lot more. They cared about safety a lot more, right? And for companies like ours, where our systems and innovation is geared towards some of this, it actually added as a good tailwind, right? So we were able to do better and capture the market more, because we really, really worked hard to make sure safety protocols are in place, hygiene is really top notch, and so on and so forth. So I think those are 2 good side effects. And I think the market's going to recover for sure. I think it's already recovered. Some categories, just generally beyond even urban companies, some might not be, at its peak, but I think it's just a question of time. In fact, some categories would see a boost because of the new learnings humanity has been put through.
I want to build on the point of safety a little bit. You know how like Indians rely so heavily on word of mouth, and you want the same person coming in to deliver the same service. How did you convince your end user to get past the fear psychosis of letting a stranger into their house for a spa or for like fixing the air conditioner? What safety measures do you have in place to ensure that your service provider and the end user get like a satisfactory service?
So, when you know someone and you have an established relationship, that's one way to kind of know that this person will be a good candidate, right? And on our platform, if you've had an established relationship with a professional, you can rebook, right? Which is the encouraged behavior. Because why not? Because they understand you, they understand your house, your body, so on and so forth, right? But what about choosing someone whom you don't know? When a plumber comes to us, do we really know, anything about him other than the guard ne bola hai ki ye plumber acha hai? We don't, right? A lot of times we go to the salon, like we don't know the background. We just assume ki sab theek hoga until things don't go well, right? I think that's the place where we go really deep and do well. For example, we'll do a lot of basic stuff which we believe should be happening, right? Like verification, hygiene checks, references, things which you do if we were running a professional company. Same practices hold true for our partners, right? So those are the basic things. But I think safety is a lot more than that. Safety means when my doorbell rings, how do I know if Raghav was the barber? It is actually Raghav, right? So we'll use a ton of tech to figure out. We'll use ML and AI algorithms to figure out face match kar raha hai, it is actually Raghav, right? Through COVID, we've found a lot of use here. We'll make sure that Raghav has a mask, right? We'll make sure he has a face shield or gloves, and we've been able to play with a lot of this. So it's basically like saying we deliver 1 million orders a month. Every order, we have a supervisor, right? That's the power of tech, right? And we've been able to do that to perfection. So I think safety kind of goes into making sure every time a delivery is happening, our checks and protocols are in place. It's not just a theoretical background process running. Yeah.
And like what measures do people use while picking a salon service or an appliance repair service? Because convenience is the number one factor for picking an app like that. But when it comes to picking a service out of these apps, what do you think is the primary differentiator of a service?
I think service choice is more based on consumer and what their household's needs are. So I think all our services fit into any given household. Frequency and when they want to use it kind of changes, right? But are we the brand they go to versus something else? That's really where the influencing power comes, right? So if you're able to fundamentally create disruption compared to the what we're calling as the offline or the competition, right? That's when consumers will shift to us. It's just a matter of, those who have not shifted, it's a matter of time, right? Their comfort and discovery, right? So you mentioned convenience is one thing which we ace, which is true, right? There is a guarantee. It's good to look at businesses as the guarantees they have. So there's a guarantee of time. 4 o'clock, meaning the person is going to show up at 4 o'clock, right? That's a good guarantee, right? There's a guarantee of quality, which is, if I said I need to, AC servicing is a common behavior which all of us get done in summers, right? If the servicing has happened, or if there was a repair, if the repair has happened, if the problem surfaces again, right, there would be revisit by the same professional, right? So we're able to flex the muscle of saying, itna confidence hai ki we'll send him again if there is a problem, right? So that's another guarantee. There's a guarantee of pricing that you won't get fleeced, right? There's a lot of protocol checks built there. So these are the things we do and guarantees we provide, which causes the masses to. This is the disruption. I mean, this is what we do on a daily basis. So.
Yeah, that's how you formalize an informal agreement usually. Great. And so this is like a largely unorganized service sector, which has provided an opportunity for on-demand home services sector to evolve. But to grow further needs a push towards standardization and organization. So how are you looking to standardize such nuanced and subjective services? Are you looking into offering training and certification to your vendors?
Yeah, perfect question. I think there's some question on the chat also on training. We do a lot of training. So the ability to perfect the quality of a service has to do with fundamentally the training these professionals have, right? And so the two ways to kind of guarantee good results. A, you select the best in the market. The problem is the best in the market is very limited. Right now, what do you do beyond that? Right. So a lot of over the years, while, on year one, we would have done zero training because you would have just picked the cream. At large scale, you have to get your hands dirty. So what we have is training courses. In some categories, they run for a month where professionals are getting trained. And this is all hands-on training. So there'll be training centers in every city category we operate in. I mean, to run it smoothly, of course, there's a lot of tech automation in place. So, it's more predictable, it's more standardized and so on and so forth, but it is training. And that's what gives us. So that's base training, right? Then you could do so much more on top of it. We collect just so much of information, so much of data on how every service happens, right? We can go back to a service professional and kind of pick off that, hey, you're a salon professional. You are broadly, 4.8 rated professional, but, aap sab kuch theek karte, but aap facial, you're not able to do a good job at, right? We are able to pick that off. In fact, we can go more detailed than that. We can, basically go and saying, cleanups are well, but, you're faltering in facials. Usme, if there's a particular facial you're faltering in, we can pick that up. And that powers the whole training, retraining engine. Feedback loops are super important, right? So we're able to do all of that to make sure quality is super top notch. And I think there's still a long way to go, right? I think, again, day one applies over here also. We are definitely not where we could be in the future. There's just tons of more work which could be done.
Right, but you've kept the feedback loop so short and so quick that that if you can narrow down like what the drawbacks are, that's amazing to have a very quick feedback loop.
A lot of things, interestingly, a lot of things customers won't even get to see. For example, if you're getting your appliances fixed, if your AC has a gas leak, right? Now, how do you know if it's a gas leak or not? A customer doesn't even know what a gas leak is. In fact, it's just understood in the industry that har saal top up hona hai gas ka AC mein for it to be cooling, which is a myth. Top up meaning your AC has a leakage, right? Like a tire puncture, leakage needs to be fixed, right? How do we make sure professionals are doing a good job and doing it right versus fleecing? They'll be clicking photos and we'll be collecting proofs, and large data algos will be running to make sure that genuinely leaked tha and genuinely fixed kiya. And, it's fine. Customers don't need to care about it because they're trusting us to do the right thing. So that's the feedback loop.
Right. You've shortened that. That's great. I will now pivot a little from like the technical questions to a bit more about your personal leadership styles, Raghav. So, creating a successful partnership can be a roller coaster ride. And as partners, you need to align on so many different levels: your intellectual capabilities, your leadership style, So tell us a little bit about your equation with Varun and Abhiraj, the co-founders, and how important is it for partners to have clarity of roles, strong shareholder agreements, and the works?
No one told us, but basically this is our first marriage, the three of us. So it has all the complications and the goods and the bads of typically what a marriage constitutes, because actually we are probably seeing each other more than what we'd see at, home people. It's a relationship of immense trust. We've spent good chunk of our last 8 years together, and it's been through different life phases as well. So there's a lot of trust built in. There is a lot of honesty built in. There are a lot of overlaps in roles which we do, but there are a lot of places which are fairly well differentiated so that we're not stepping on each other's toes. Right. So it keeps us very honest. But I think at its base, if I talked about, the defining moments of the relationship, it's fundamentally built on long-term alignment, because you can question everything. Root of everything is purpose, and I think that's where we are very well aligned. And trust. End of the day, this is a happy saying in our company: we can throw tables at each other inside a boardroom or a meeting room. When you come out of that door, you're hugging and kissing, and all is good, right? And that's how all relationships should be. I think without the fire, you're not pushing each other and questioning each other, but you need to understand the fire is only to help the company grow and nothing else. Yeah, that's how our relationship.
And you don't lose sight of the bigger picture, right?
Yes, someone or the other, if not everyone, is there to remind us.
Okay, that's great to hear. I will now let Kanika take the last question. Kanika, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chandrika. So Raghav would like to know, what are your future plans for the company? Any new ideas that we can preview upon?
Future plans are tough. I think whatever we are doing evolves into, a lot of future stuff. Like, for example, we are expanding and looking at, we keep playing with new categories and stuff. So, we, for example, cooks is something which we are toying with, right? And it's something which we launched. It's in, we've launched in Bangalore, in Gurgaon, right? I'm very excited about it. I wish it was there in Delhi. It's just a matter of time. Right? There are things we are doing to go deeper in the beauty sector, right? Because there's just so many more problems to solve. So I think a lot of our innovation and depth is just going deeper into the categories we operate in. Right? So when I say beauty to you, beauty seemed like a category to us 4 years back. Today, beauty is like 10 categories, right? And innovation for us, or what's the future, is actually this 10, our science becoming so strong that this 10 becomes actually 30. Like, we're able to see 30 different buckets in this.
You've opened a men's salon, supposedly. Men beauty section also?
We do men's salon. All my haircuts in the past, year or 2 years has been through Urban Company. So
that's really good. So we have got a lot of questions in the chat box also. Would like to take them up, Raghav. So it's like, what are the criteria for selecting vendors or device providers? How do you select your vendors? Like, what are the criteria that you look into when you're hiring a professional for the Urban Company?
Yeah, so there's a lot of science behind, like there's a lot of process and science built into it, where professionals who want to work hard and want to work will come, then we evaluate them. So that some more hygiene stuff like verifications and background checks, which we'll do anyways. But a lot of question then becomes on how well are they at, their job, right? And there's a whole process through training. Our trainers are able to assess if they're good, not good, what do they need to improve on, so on and so forth. I think that really gives us a check before professionals go live on would they do a good job or not. But that's not it. As I was saying, a lot of training happens on job, through feedback loops, through retraining. Some retraining is in person. A lot of training happens digitally, because we just surface those videos and content for them to learn. Right? We just, even professionals just knowing feedback is immensely valuable.
Yeah, true. So how do you handle, there are sometimes like the customers, they meet their service providers and the chances of getting a recurring business from the same service from the customer directly instead of going through the app.
Yeah.
How do you manage that?
Great question. It's there you go. More visible now. So if you think about why someone will go off any platform, it's to do with, is the platform providing enough value? We have two sides, so two sides need to see value in a platform. So short answer is, actually, a lot of professionals just prefer to stick to the platform. Is that 100%? No. It's also very hard to tell if someone's going off the platform, but by and large, professionals actually really stick to the platform. And the reason is that customer needs those guarantees. He needs the guarantee of time. He needs the guarantee of quality, right? If they go off the platform, they fundamentally lose the guarantee, right? Professionals and everyone will get back into that cycle of pilferage and cutting corners and so on and so forth, right? Professional side is more interesting. Professionals don't go off the platform for various reasons, and some reasons would be obvious, like, again, those guarantees. But professionals actually care a lot about them as individuals, their pride. So it's something amazing to us, which happened when we started to get this feedback a few years ago, was like a professional articulated that, like, I want to stick to the platform because I'm wearing a uniform. I'm a business partner, so I'm not working for any company. And the customer cannot tell me to just wait downstairs for like half an hour more, right? Urban companies there, I have respect, I have dignity, right? Similarly, a customer can't haggle with me, can't ask for discounts because that's the work I've done. And I don't have to fight that battle. The company kind of comes in and supports that. So they get a lot of
support systems there.
Support system, pride in what they do. And I think that's what matters a lot. But yes, they need to make more money end of the day. So we need to ensure that they are making more money than what they would have made offline. And incentive structures are such there where they kind of keep working on us, so they get benefits. So I think those are more nudges, but fundamentally, what needs to work for them is unko value milna chahiye from offline. And I think they're able to provide that in a lot of times.
Yeah, true, that's true. So there's one more question. What's your advice to opt for debt or to dilute the equity?
Tough question. Debt, equity, end of the day, both are kinds of loans. You have to pay them back. So I think
both are not.
It doesn't matter. Companies kind of do both. And there are reasons in both, right? Equity, you're partnering by giving in ownership. So whoever is joining you wants their money to grow at a much higher rate. It's a much high risk investment for them. Debt will be probably like lower risk, whatever. Like, I think that financially there'll be a lot of concepts here. But fundamentally, I think as an entrepreneur, both are forms, some way or the other, forms of loans. You have to pay them back. People need to earn money on what they've given, right? So, it really simplifies the math if it's looked that way. I don't know if that answers the question. I've seen companies do both.
So there's one more question. What's the right way to value a company from a sustainability point of view? Like, sometimes we are seeing that there are losses in the company, but when you see the valuation is very high.
Correct. Everyone should have their own math of how they value something. Valuation stuff are tough. I'm not a finance guy, so mere ko waise, like, I have to derive everything from scratch. Right way to value, I think, actually, here's the financial advice which I have kind of gathered. It's a lot to do with the time horizon. Right? So you have to pick your time horizon, and you need to make money in that time horizon, right? So early stage startups, your time horizon is 10 years, right? Like, the company needs space to grow, to figure out, right? If fundamentally you believe the company will make money and profits, like, then you model it at that level, right? Versus typical debt, risk-free, 1 year time horizon, so on and so forth. How you value it is up to you. You need to fundamentally believe whatever you're investing will grow in the time horizon, and that's where value comes from.
Yeah, true. That's a very good answer. What was your financial strategy throughout? How did you manage the sudden fall in the sales chart when COVID started? I feel you guys did really well in the COVID.
Our financial strategy, at least for the large part of the 7 years, has been to just concentrate on core business building, which means you're building a business which is very lean. Operational leverage is really high. And it's fine to invest money. So you might not call it net profits, because a lot of that money is going into pushing the market, getting more customers, investing in team building. But stable state, confidence needs to be there. That stable state, actually all that money is not needed, because leverage is really high, right? That's a sign of a good business. So yeah, that's been our journey through. I think COVID it's all I think we took care of our partners well. We took care of our employees and their families well. That's all that mattered. I think we were in terms of business, we were very quick to adapt.
Yes.
Safety protocols, new processes. I mean, you're all women here, so
yeah, you were the one like who we were like trusting to let anybody come inside the house. That was like a big challenge.
Threading is one of the toughest things to do.
Yeah.
Right. Threading is a very personal, I'm touching body contact, right? I mean, there's just one small example, but we reinvented how threading happens so that it's contactless. So there's just an example of us innovating through every category in COVID. And I think that helped because we learned a lot ourselves, and customers realized us to be a brand which genuinely cares about it, about things. So yeah, that was COVID. But I think COVID for us is recovered, right? We're back to, better peaks and, good
actually, I think everybody should now see the peak.
Yeah.
So any tips on marketing and customer acquisition? What should be optimum spend for it? That's the last question I'm taking.
Oh, this is a tough one. It's a tough one because there's never going to be a good answer to this. Marketing, how to spend your marketing strategies. Marketing hopefully you need to look at marketing as an investment, and hence it needs to have the compounding effect of when you acquire a customer today, that one customer acquired does not need more marketing spend, and that one customer acquired gives you the revenue in some time horizon.
Word of mouth also. In
that lens, marketing becomes an investment, because yes, you're spending money, but each of those customers are going to give you some profits in the long run. Marketing becomes really tough because sometimes this becomes hard and we lose perspective. So you're just spending a lot of money, getting a lot of people, but are they really giving you profits is the question part. So I think your marketing strategy has a lot to do with your business economics, and then a lot to do with how much of investments could you do, because it's easy to get 10 customers. It's super hard to get 1 million customers, right? And the difference is it will also show in money, because after a point, every incremental customer will be more expensive. So your risk to get revenue from that customer goes from like short time horizons to 2 years, 3 years, 4 years to justify the cost. So make sure the business math is clean, and there'll be a certain risk you can take. Those two will dictate marketing.
This was fantastic. Hearing you was like really, and the way very candidly you answered every question, that was very interesting to hear. Now we come to the end of this session. Raghav, I would like to present you with a green certificate. We at Fikiflow plant a tree in your name in association with Trees for Tigers in Sundarban National Park, West Bengal. You can track your tree on growstree.com with the unique identification number given in the certificate, and fondly remember Flow Kanpur. Kanpur anyways, you can never forget. So this is a small way of contributing to a greener tomorrow. Now I would like to call upon my senior vice chair, Pooja Gupta, for vote of thanks. Over to you, Pooja.
Good evening, everyone. Today indeed was a very, very special webinar, not only because that it was empowering to hear your story, Raghav, but to hear a success story of someone from our own city, Kanpur. It indeed hits straight home, as it is definitely motivate us to believe and reach out to our dreams. Thank you so much, Raghav, for sharing your story. We are immensely grateful to have learned so much from your journey. It is not only empowering to see urban company bloom to the stage, but also that Urban Company is empowering thousands along with themselves. My sincere gratitude to our dynamic chairperson, Kanika Ved, for ensuring that Flow Kanpur is always hosting such interactive workshops with such dynamic and passionate speakers. I would like to congratulate and thank today's event chair, Chandrika Jhunjhunwala, for conducting the event so beautifully and gracefully. Thank you, members Pan India, for your participation as the event are successful only because of you. The presence is truly motivating for us to organize more such empowering workshops. My gratitude to our media team for handling it each time so impeccably. Thank you to our annual sponsors, Iris Life Sciences and Premanjali Foundation for their generosity. Thank you everyone for your time. Wishing everyone safe times ahead. Thank you.